Alright, so this is just going to be a quick video, again, outlining process, not procedure. So this one is going to be how to get kind of started with your clothes and accessories and just kind of blocking them in. With the exception of the boots, which I did go a bit further on, and the boots are more or less at a finished spot for me. The rest of this is very much at a first draft, kind of roughed in stage. So let's take a look at how to get to this point. And I'm just going to hide all of the clothes and accessories and things. Okay, we can hide the, I guess we'll keep the head for now. So this is where we are going to come back to the base mesh. Right there. Okay, so I've got it on a different layer. So to model in the accessories, it's really as simple as selecting the parts of the base mesh that cover what you want to add, and then duplicating them and separating them by selection. So for instance, with the pants, I will select this edge loop. I can go into front view, wireframe, and box select here to about here. And then I will hit Shift D to duplicate. I will right click to keep it the same spot, and then immediately hit P to separate by selection. Okay, I can go back into object mode, select my new object, which is named body base 01. I will rename this to pants underscore demo, since I already have some pants in the scene. And now I have my pants blocked in. For my jacket slash hoodie thing, vest, I suppose I called it, I'll hide that temporarily. This was the same thing with a little bit of extra work for the hood. So to do that, let me hide that. I'm going to select on my base mesh. I'm going to go into wireframe, and I'm going to box select all of that, and I'm going to deselect the parts on the arm that I don't want. Circle select and middle click and drag to deselect. And left click to select. That looks pretty good. Then I'm going to hit Shift D to duplicate it. Right click to keep it in the same spot. Then, I have snapping on, which is screwing some things up. Right click to keep it in the same spot, and P to separate by selection. Tab into object mode. Select my new thing, rename it vest underscore demo. Okay, now I'm going to hide the body, and I'm just going to do a little bit more work with this vest. So the first thing is I want this to have a hood, so I'm going to delete these front parts right here. Just delete those vertices. Okay. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to scale it up so that it's actually covering the body. Okay, and this isn't going to be skin tight clothing, so I want it to have a little bit of room, and it's going to kind of remove some of the detail. You're not going to see all the definition as if this character was shirtless. So I might scale it up along the y-axis a little bit. Maybe select these and Alt-S, scale those up. Same thing here. And again, I'm just worrying about roughing this in. I don't want to get the final form just yet. I scale that up a little bit. Move this edge up a little bit. Move this back a little bit. And I'm also not as concerned with the topology, because I'm not trying to define the muscle shapes as much. And I'm not afraid to add in an extra edge loop here and there to kind of give me the definition that I need where I need it. Okay, so once I got that, I might select this part of the head and Alt-S and scale that up a little bit so that the hood feels a little bit more natural. For the center part where I had the, let me show it again. So this kind of split here, that was just done. I select these center verts. I'm going to turn off clipping on my mirror modifier, which since I duplicated this mesh from the base mesh that had the mirror modifier duplicated as well. So I'm just going to select these verts, and I'm going to hit V, and I'm going to rip them apart from the center. And for whatever reason, it's separated right here, so I will W and merge those back together at the center. Okay, now I can turn clipping back on, just so I have it there. And then from front view, I might reposition a few things, like so. And the next thing that I'm going to do is, once I'm more or less happy with it, something like that, and maybe Alt-S on that. I'm going to add in a subsurface modifier at level 2, turn on optimal display, select everything, and W shade smooth. Just give me a better sense of what's going on and what is over the body and what isn't. You can see back here, I need a little bit more room so that the skin isn't poking through. So I'll move that back a little bit. Same thing back here, I'll move these back a little bit. Okay. Another thing that I'm going to do while I think of it, this head right here is just the base, and it's just kind of a starting point, and it's not what my final head is going to be, so I'm not too worried about it intersecting the vest mesh. So I'm just going to hide that for now so I can work on the hood. I also want to change the material of the hood just so I can tell it apart from at a glance. So I'm going to go to my materials. I'm going to click new, and I'm just excuse me, I'm not going to go into a node editor. I'm going to keep this real simple. I'm going to change the color to something darker. I'm not even going to change it to a color. I'm just going to make it darker so it stands out. And then I'm going to hover over that color, hit Command C to copy it, and in the settings I'm going to hit Command V so it changes the viewport color as well. This way, if I want to see it in a rendered view, which you can't right now because I don't have any lights, if I want to see it in a rendered view, I can see it in the rendered view, and I can see it in just the regular view. Oops, I am on, there we go. Okay. So I've got that, and now I can, go back into edit mode and continue to tweak and get things kind of laid out where I want them. And just define the primary forms. I probably want this hood a little bit more like that, and maybe I even want to extrude it down a little bit more. So from side view, I'll extrude it, rotate it a little bit, G, just so I have the form that I really want. Let's see. Yeah. I'll extrude this up as well to fill that in. Fill that, and fill that all the way down. And obviously these need to move out as well. Okay, and so just very quickly, I've got the basis of a vest. In this case, it's going to be a leather vest, hood, jacket type thing. Pants are the same way. These might take a little bit more work, just for the simple fact that I didn't fully define the form as well as I should have, probably. But I'm going to turn on my my background images, and I might have to repoint it. So let me navigate to my background images again. Reference, let's see. Nope, not there. character creation, reference, body, torso, nope. I don't remember where I put it. All right, I found it. Open the image. Okay, so now from the side view, my background images are showing me where the skin would be. So I want the pants to cover the skin and then also a little bit more. So I'll scale them up past where the reference image shows. Okay. Then later on I'll go back and I'll add the details later on. But again, I just want to get it all blocked in so I can start to get a feel of how my character looks. You know, I might add in more edge loops, scale them up a little bit, scale along the y-axis a little bit. Okay, I'll probably just bring the whole waistline up, something like that. Bring that up a little bit. Okay, and just continue tweaking until it starts to feel a little bit more like pants. Okay, like that. This character is going to have a kind of cybernetic mechanical type arm. So to do that, what I'm going to do is just select, now I've got a mirror modifier on the torso, and I actually want to keep that there, even though my cybernetic arm is only going to be on his right side. So I'm going to select the part that I want to duplicate, Shift-D, right-click to keep it in the same spot, P, separate by selection. I will tab into object mode, select it, rename it, call it arm_demo. Okay. Then I can, in object mode, because you can't apply a mirror modifier in edit mode, I'm going to apply the mirror modifier, tab into edit mode, and select the half I don't want. Okay. Now I have just this kind of almost glove-looking thing. And then I'm just going to select everything and click Alt-S and just scale it up along the normals just a little bit. And I will also give this a different material. So in this case, I've got a medium material right here that I can give it. And so I'm just going to go through and do that. Let me go back to my kind of starting point right here. Go to layer 1. Okay. So that's all I did to get here. You can see the mesh is still very simple. I did a belt, and to do the belt, I took the edge loop from around the pants. I duplicated it. And then what I did is I added 2 modifiers. Well, there's 4 here. There's the mirror and the subsurface modifier, which you're familiar with. But I also added a shrink wrap modifier and a solidify modifier. So I'll go through these in order, in the order that I added them. So the first was the mirror modifier, which is straightforward. I have clipping on. Okay, so it just looks like a tube that goes around the waist. Then I added a shrink wrap modifier. And what that does is much like snapping, is it will kind of shrink this mesh to whatever is underneath it. And the important thing to set is your target. So in this model, my pants are called pants_original, and that's because I've got some other pants that I'm playing around with for cloth simulation, which I'm having mixed results with. But so I've got my belt. I set my shrink wrap modifier to target the original pants. It's important also to keep it above the surface. because sometimes it can get kind of wonky if you don't do that. And those are the only settings that I changed there. You also have the mode, nearest vertex, project, and nearest surface point. Play around with that if you're not getting the results that you want. Once I had my shrink wrap modifier, you can see this is what the shrink wrap modifier does, and you can watch the kind of the gap between the pants and the belt. On the shrink wrap modifier, I have an offset specified, so I can bring that up or down depending on what I want. 0.01 was what that was at. Okay. The next is the solidify modifier. And the solidify modifier does just as it sounds. It's like extruding the whole thing and scaling it a little bit. Except the mesh is still just flat. It kind of simplifies the process a bit. And so in the solidify modifier, you have a thickness option. You have a clamp option, which I'm not entirely sure what that does. So the tooltip, offset clamp based on geometry scale. Okay. The important ones to pay attention to: even thickness and high quality normals will keep the solidify modifier feeling as you would expect. There's also a fill rim option. So if I don't click that, then it just looks like I have two planes sitting next to each other. So fill rim actually makes it feel solid. And then I can also choose to crease or not the edges of the object. So that's how I did the belt. It's real simple geometry with a relatively simple modifier stack applied to it. And then there's the subsurface modifier. You generally want the mirror modifier first, and you generally want the subsurface modifier last. There are occasional things where you'll want to mix up that order, but usually, especially the subsurface modifier, that's usually going to be the last thing that you add to a stack. And then the boots I went a little bit further on, but that started out the same way. I started with the base mesh, and from front view, I selected here, and I duplicated this section of the mesh, separated it, renamed it, and then I started working on actually modeling the boots. And so if I hit tab, and you can see this is the geometry of it. Now if you kind of ignore maybe a little bit, if you ignore some of the details, so I'll hide the buckles and the rivets here. So this is just the boot. This whole section right here is actually an entirely separate piece. It's not connected at all, and that's fine. It's just going to it'll look like it's connected once it's all textured, but it was a much easier way to add that detail without having to add a bunch more geometry and inset and fool around that way. Same thing here. This kind of inset area back here was selecting some faces and then just hitting I to inset and scaling them in a little bit. I added some edge loops along the inside wall to make this edge a little bit sharper. I should also note, as we go through this, that I had reference images for these boots, and those are located right here. So these were the reference images that I found for the boots. Now, I simplified some things. I haven't done this metal plate in the back with the screws. I may do that. I did not include the zipper because, well, one, I didn't want to model a zipper, and two, I don't like boots with zippers, so I can do that. But I found these boots that had a bunch of different images, even from the bottom. And then I also found this image, the vibramsole.jpg. And this image I used to get an accurate shape of the foot. So I brought that image in to Blender. I brought it in as a background image that I set to only be viewable from the bottom. So in the 3D view, if I hit Control 7 and look at it from underneath, and probably relink to the actual image, which I will do. That's 3D, character creation, reference, boots, Vibram Soul. Okay. You can see, let me go into local view. Now, I have since rotated it a little bit and scaled it up a touch, but you can see that the general shape is there, and that was very helpful because for a little while I was doing it without a reference image and it just didn't feel natural. So I found a reference image, I fixed my shape, and added the boots. So that's how I blocked everything in and got to this point. You know, you can use the same principles if you have, say, body armor or shields or anything that need to conform to the shape of your torso. The shrink wrap modifier and the solidify modifier are great for that. So once you have all this done, then you can kind of start to really get a feel for what your character is going to look and feel like. And then when you add some light in a very simple set, you can actually start to see it kind of come together. And for me, once I get to this point, then it starts to get exciting and it feels like I'm actually making something instead of pushing verts around. So yeah, this is why I'll block everything in first and get a feel for the character before I go too far on the details on any one section.